And I think we are live now, Lee.
So, you want to be an Ultimate Fighter. Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier set for champion v champion in a super fight going down at UFC 226. So, I'm sat at home, Rob's sat at home, and I'm saying, I'm getting feedback on that from my play.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't turn it on at the same time. It's a bad idea.
Don't do that. So me and Rob sitting at home and we said, look, we got to come live. We got to come on. We got to speak about this. So it's now confirmed that Daniel Cormier is taking on Stipe Miocic. They're going to coach the Ultimate Fighter undefeated seasons, which starts filming, I think, next week. Rob is a big avid fan of the Ultimate Fighter. So Rob, straight off the bat, what's your thoughts on this matchup? No, this matchup first, and we'll talk about the whole coaching thing after that. But like Daniel Cormier seemed quite distant on it. Like he was talking about DC coming back and stuff like that. So what's flipped the script? Is it just who did I say?
You're locked, DC.
Yeah. So no, he's talking about Kane coming back. And, you know, that's his division and he has no interest in it. So either a lot of dollars got thrown on him or what changed?
I assume a lot of dollars. I assume Cain Velasquez isn't really on his way back, or at least he's not getting a title shot when he comes back straight away. But just overall, before we talk about kind of the ins and outs, why Daniel Cormier may or may not have accepted the fight, I think just my initial reaction to it was, it's a great fight. There's no doubt about it. It's an excellent fight. But it's another one of them where it's an excellent fight as a standalone, but because Daniel Cormier is moving up and it's going to hold up two divisions, not really hold up two divisions because the heavyweight division is going to move on, it's still, you know, you're getting a little bit of that, you know, forcing the super fight again feeling is what I get. But as a standalone fight, I love it. It's an excellent matchup.
Like my thoughts on it, like realistically, if you take Stipe, right, you look what Stipe done against the big, dangerous Francis Ngannou at the weekend. Look, I was all on board. I'd nearly say I was driving the train of the hype train. But like Francis Ngannou, a lot of people were speaking so highly of him. A lot was expected. Stipe absolutely put on just a clinic last weekend, an absolute clinic, and what he done to Francis Ngannou. DC then down at the weight class down below, an absolute clinic against Volkan Ozdemir. So when you look at it that way, is like you really got to think, like, who's the next challenger for either one? So I know we speak regularly as well, Rob, on the show about, you know, holding up divisions and all this type of stuff. I'm big for that. I'm big, you know, you got to fight within your division, defend your title, do that. But both these guys, Stipe set the record in the heavyweight division, and DC, Wilk John Jones, he's ruling that division. Like realistically, who challenges either?
Yeah,
now.
Yeah, from that perspective, I completely get it. Like we spoke about TJ Dillashaw versus Demetrius Johnson not too long ago, probably the last show or the show before that, and was said that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense on TJ's end because TJ just won the title. And I know that in a way Daniel Cormier just won the title, but if John Jones isn't in this scenario, if he's not in this situation, Daniel Cormier has ruled that division, as you said. And then Stipe Miocic has ruled the division. So from that perspective, it does make sense. It probably is one of the super fights in the UFC right now that you can make that has some kind of sense around it, you know? It's not just, it doesn't feel like it's thrown together, but for me, I'm just wary of this super fight. I'm just a little bit tired of this super fight in the UFC right now.
Well, to play devil's advocate and counter, like DC went 13-0, I think, as a heavyweight fighter. Yeah. So it's not as if DC is just, they're throwing him up going, yeah, you go on up and fight the heavyweight champion there and get slaughtered. This is a guy who, by all accounts, dropped to 205 because his good friend Cain Velasquez was the champion at heavyweight. Yeah. So, like, let's be honest, we were all talking about it. We mightn't have spoke about it on air, but we spoke about it off air, where we were sort of saying, you know, Kane's going to need a warm up. You can't throw Kane back in straight away against Stipe. If you were to do that, it's all sorts of wrong. We were all sort of in agreement with that. So like this makes sense. This allows Kane to get his fight in. It allows as well one aspect. I know you're not a big fan of TUF, but this allows like for me watching Embedded leading up to this, the two people who stood out the most was DC and Stipe for how much they're average guys. Like they're obviously not average guys. They're absolute world beaters, but
they seem like working class guys in a way.
Exactly, like Stipe Miocic just broke the record for defending the UFC title 3 times, and he's talking about going home to use a snowblower. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like Chuck Mindenhall then today, I was reading on route to work, wrote a fantastic article about how much Daniel Cormier is just your everyday man, and like he sort of retells that story of the heartbreak of DC having to hear his son speak about the dad win or the dad lose, and his wife had to say he lost. That's the heartbreaking. I swear to God, like I was nearly tearing up on the bus going to work today. So what I think the TUF aspect will bring to this, apart from I just mean coaches at this stage, we'll talk a little bit more about the competitors, but for coaches it brings two of the probably the best untold stories. Like these two guys are like, what's the right way I want to say this? They're not your stereotypical fighter, I suppose. You know, the big stupid meathead or all this trash talking that's going on in mixed martial arts right now. These are just two genuine fighters who, you know, they'll probably get on great with one another. They'll probably be best of friends with one another leading up to it. But when they get across the catch one another, they'll absolutely rip the heads off one another. So I think that's what's interesting about this version, especially with it being TUF, is that they're going to be around one another so long, and I think I'll make for a good series. And like weirdly, I will watch this one. I have no interest in previous ones, but I genuinely think I'll watch this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sold on the whole TUF thing. It'll be interesting to see Richie Smullen, who's on the show as well. He's obviously a guy from these parts. If he gets far in it, then I'll watch the fights. But I'm still not sold on the reality show. I'm kind of over TUF. And then to play devil's advocate on that, you're talking about the two guys being, you know, generally respectful people and stuff like that. Will that really make a good reality show, or do you need somebody that's gonna push the envelope? And I suppose DC, he's a bit of a pro wrestling guy. You could see him in Embedded. When he wants to talk a bit of trash, he'll kind of play that character and he'll talk some trash. So maybe that'll lead to some good television. But to be honest, I'm not really interested in the whole TUF thing. I'm more interested in the fight itself. And as I said, even though I'm a little bit tired of the whole super fight thing, this does make sense in ways. Like what you said was that there's no really contenders there. There's not really anyone there that really sticks out, so it does make sense in that way. But yeah, I'm more interested in the fight itself.
Just jumping, I can see Carl Doran is active. Hello, Carl. So Carl's going on about here. I'm glad he's not in the show anymore. It's a waste of space. But you know, potentially legitimize DC in the casual fans' eyes. Like, I honestly think, like, if you're a fan who doesn't think DC is an absolute monster, I don't know what you want to see as a monster. Like, you look at what DC done to the majority of the guys he's competed against, and it's a valid point, Carl, at the same time, because you will get people going, oh man, John Jones, and like that is the kryptonite for DC. He's lost obviously twice to John Jones, last time by way of knockout, so it does carry a lot of water, that comment. But like DC, man, is a future Hall of Famer, and if you imagine if he was to go on and beat Stipe and claim the heavyweight title, like it's only second guy to ever do it, hold 2 belts simultaneously. I don't know what happened to the last guy though. I haven't heard much about him since. I still think DC doesn't really get maybe the respect that you'd expect him to get, what he's done in his career. I think the John Jones situation still looms a little bit over him. Now I felt that the last fight, I felt like that was kind of gone a little bit. I think people are not forgetting about John Jones, but I think it's, you know, the situation of how many chances are you going to give John Jones, and we kind of just have to forget about what happened at this point. But
Yeah, possibly. I do think it's a good opportunity for both guys. Like there is something that they'll get from TUF. You know, they'll get it personally. You know, they'll get more exposure and all that. But yeah, it's a good point.
The one thing I noticed as well is we always, you know, whatever Dana White says, you know, always welcome on the show, Dana. But whatever Dana White says, you know, you take like with a severe pinch of salt. Like, but the fact that he spoke about this in a post-fight conference where both DC and Daniel Cormier, DC and Stipe had won. For me, that spoke volumes. I was going, this carries a little bit more weight than when he just sort of, if he's on ESPN or he's on The Herd or wherever he's on, when he turned around and says, you know, hold on, now this could happen. There's a potential, there's a likelihood that this could happen. That for me made me go, fuck, Dana White's thinking about this.
Yeah, and as well, if you kind of watch Dana over the years, although he does say a lot of things that doesn't happen, and maybe people could call him a little bit, say he's a bit, I wouldn't say liar, that's probably too strong of a word, but he says a lot of things that just does not come out. When he says something after a press conference, usually that does hold some kind of weight because he doesn't like making fights after press conferences. So when he says that, or after fights in press conferences, when he says that he's interested in a certain fight, you kind of have to respect that a little bit more.
Like a couple of, just to jump into the comments here as well, people are saying apparently we're getting Cyborg Nunes and TJ versus DJ as well. That was MMA Fighting have reported that in the article that I read about it as well. As well, there's been reports that DJ was basically saying, look, he'll give up his belt if it means he has to fight TJ. So again, like if we were like, I'm not as on board. Don't get me wrong. If the fight gets made and it's on this card, yeah, I'm 100%. I'm 2 foot into this. You know what I mean? I'm knee deep. I'm loving it. But right now, I just think like TJ has just won that title.
Yeah,
like, defend it. There's a difference. There's a difference here. Now I know someone who's highly intelligent here might say, well, DC just won the light heavyweight title. Because technically he was given it after John Jones beat him, but you know DC was holding that belt. Well, here it's for me, it's DJ. It's so hard. TJ, he just won the belt. There's plenty of opportunities. Like I think the biggest loser out of if TJ was to fight DJ is like Jimmy Rivera, or even Dom Cruz. Like Dom Cruz is warranted of a title shot. That obviously him and Rivera were due to fight. It never happened due injury. But like I just think that fight right now doesn't make sense. While if I jump to Amanda Nunes and Cyborg, that does make sense because you've nobody in Cyborg's division because there's nobody in the division. It's simple as that. Randomly won it and I thought, no, I don't want to be in this weight class. I'm out of here. Yeah. Holly Holm put up a good fight but was beaten. And so who else is there? Amanda Nunes. So that makes perfect sense. And Amanda Nunes division, she sort of wiped out the top contenders. So let the top contenders fight their way up to number one contendership. So them two fights I agree with. Like I think DC Stipe is a great fight because otherwise we're like, let's be honest. Otherwise we're just going to see Stipe against Verdum again. That's what we're going to see. Yeah. So like this is interesting. The fact that Daniel Cormier has fought at heavyweight, is 13-0 as a heavyweight, taking on the baddest man on the planet, Stipe. So like that makes sense for me. That makes sense.
If you are a type of fan, and I'm this type of fan sometimes, who likes some kind of storyline going into fights, this has it. Like, you know, he can go into this fight and say, I was ruling that division, I decided to go down, I won the title here, but if I didn't move down, I would be champion at that division. You know, he could easily go in and say that, and it has that kind of storyline going into it. And then Stipe can obviously say, I'm the best heavyweight of all time, the most decorated UFC heavyweight of all time. So there's all that there. It's a great fight. It's a really, really good fight. And we can definitely talk a little bit about the other two as well that's potentially on the card. But I love the fight as a standalone. I really do. I love it.
Like again, I just have Just Minto here saying TJ be coming down to flyweight, so why would he give up the belt? It was just something I have to be honest with you, Josh. I just read through it really, really quick. That basically, Piznat is answering it now underneath me here. If he's forced to fight for the same money, he'll basically vacate. It was something along that lines. I'm not too sure of the in and outs of it. But what do you think? I've sort of said, it feels like it's holding up the division. Do you feel the same if it was TJ jumping down?
Yeah, I pretty much do. I think there's a lot of guys that would be upset over that. Again, at the flyweight division, there's not a huge line of contenders, so you're not breaking that up. But as you said, I'd feel more sorry for the 135ers more than anything. But most likely they're just going to get thrown an interim title, as the UFC like to do. So you'd probably have Jimmy Rivera versus X for the UFC interim title down the line, which I don't like either. But again, I don't think, if you're a fan of mixed martial arts, you're a fan of fighting, I don't think you're looking at any of these fights and saying they're not good fights, because they're all fantastic fights. It's just maybe for sporting reasons and for divisional reasons, they don't make sense. But they're all fantastic fights.
Well, as Meatloaf would say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So for me, 2 out of 3 do make sense. Personally, I'd like to see TJ defend his belt a couple of times. I would like to see him keep that division, because there is fighters there. Do you know what I mean? Like you could, like if you take other divisions, like let's just say featherweight, for example, Max Holloway. I know Max is due to fight Frankie Edgar, right? Let's say he beats Frankie Edgar. Let's just say that. Outside of Frankie Edgar, you've got what? Ortega?
Yeah.
So if the opportunity came along for a super fight with, let's say, the lightweight champion. Now there's 2 current lightweight champions, because the 2 of them are the real champions. If Max Holloway was to fight for the lightweight title, I can understand that, because Max Holloway has defended his belt now. He's beat Jose Aldo twice, and he's sort of beating everybody on the way up. So if he was to beat Frankie Edgar, and let's say Brian Ortega wasn't available, I can understand the Max Holloway super fight moving up divisions and stuff like that. But I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way when somebody just wins a title and then changes division. Like somebody said it earlier in the comments there, GSP and Anderson Silva, they spoke about that for a while, and it never happened. 2 of them were in their prime, 2 of them were ruling their divisions, and it never happened. Let's be honest, the new owners of the UFC, they want to recoup some of that money, and this would be like, if they were like, in a weird way, as a fan, again, this sounds weird, but in a weird way, if they were to put these 3 fights on the same card, I think they're losing themselves other cards. Like these 3 fights could headline a pay-per-view themselves. So they're sort of doing that, but you can understand why they're doing this, because they're trying to recoup, and they're trying to just get some of that money back. But I don't know, it's just somebody who's just won the title rubs me the wrong way, and I'd love to speak to Jimmy Rivera about it, or Dom Cruz, and get their opinion on what they think,
Yeah, on the whole scenario of you speaking about stacking the cards and doing all these super fights, it's an interesting one, because last year, this is when it kind of started. The UFC started putting on these big fights, and I suppose like you look at the Conor McGregor thing, and he goes over to boxing and that kind of thing. But then you look at this year, and a lot of people were saying maybe they're going to move away from that. But I think this just proves that it's not something they're going to move away from right now, because another thing you mentioned was the UFC wanting to recoup all this money that, or I suppose the parent company wanting to recoup all this money to pay for the UFC. And then with the Fox Sports deal ending this year, I think it's late this year, they're going to want to try bringing in as much revenue as possible, get the best ratings as possible, to try get the best TV deal. So I think if you're an MMA fan who doesn't really like this super fight thing and would prefer the number 1 contender to fight the champion, I think you're going to have to wait till at least next year, because I don't think anything's changing based on what we're seeing here.
This is an interesting one. I'm active here. I have the comments flowing up here, Rob. I don't know if you're looking at the comments.
So much open here, but I'll go and look.
Josh and Peasant. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. Peasant could be wrong. There's Peasant. Super fights should be made every 3 or 4 years. When we got super dominant champs, when they have 5+ title defenses, you're preaching to the choir here with me. I agree with that completely. But Josh, they've got no star power without Conor, Ronda, or Jones all out what do we think of that? Is there no star power in the UFC?
Star power, let's say, like, I think yes. Superstar power, I think no. With those guys out, I think there's the potential superstars there, but I think their biggest stars are clearly on the sidelines. And on that whole thing of Pesnat's idea of the super fights every 3-4 years, when they have 5+ title defenses, that makes sense. I think it was Carl that brought up Anderson Silva versus GSP. That fight for the longest time made a whole lot of sense because both guys were extremely dominant in their divisions. They were a division apart, and it made sense. But now you have people saying, okay, I just won a title, let's go, super fight, let's go down or let's go up, which, that shouldn't be the case.
It's just my thing with the star power, like, I think the names we've mentioned here, like the three wise men turning up and a baby's born, like, I think Ronda was a phenomenon because she was the original, she was the Dana White as quoted saying, no woman will ever fight in the UFC. He's no interest in it. Ronda comes along. She has this attitude, the looks, and he was like, yeah, let's make it happen. Yeah. And you look at women's MMA now, it's thriving. Conor McGregor, like, Conor is just, there's nothing else like Conor. Be it you love him or you hate him, you're tuning in to fucking watch him. It doesn't matter if you're his fan or if you're his enemy. You tune in to watch Conor McGregor. And John Jones is the biggest waste of talent that has ever been in the sport of mixed martial arts. He's absolutely phenomenal. He is one of the greatest athletes I've ever watched step into the octagon or any cage. It's watching him fight. It's disgusting. You're like, this guy is so good, and he throws this talent away. So I wouldn't say there's no star power. Like, I don't know if anyone tuned in, if you watched the likes of now. Funny, I actually think she's going to lose the rematch, but Rose Namajunas was on Joe Rogan, and she did a great character, like a great character. We just seem to have got into this era of you have to be an absolute showman to be the big star power. Like, you look at Chuck Liddell. Like, I love Chuck Liddell, Robert. I absolutely love Chuck Liddell. But Chuck Liddell has the fucking personality of a fucking wet, dried out, re-wet cardboard box. Do you know what I mean? Like, when Chuck Liddell talks, has he ever said anything that inspired you? Do you know what I mean?
Not really, no.
So, like Chuck Liddell is probably one of the most, like, right, I'm in my late 30s, so probably Chuck is a lot, familiar to me than the younger viewer of mixed martial arts. But, like, Chuck Liddell was not a trash talker. Chuck Liddell just got in and took people's fucking souls home with him. And that's what was entertaining about Chuck Liddell. Yeah. But, like, that's the thing. Like, we're in this new era where everybody has to say certain things or act a certain way, and Conor's just a master of it. There's some guys that are also good at, like, Chael. Now, in saying that, I thought Chael was a bit cringy in his post Bellator,
a little bit,
but Chuck Liddell did look badass. I agree with that. But my point is that you don't have to be amazing on the mic to be a great fighter. Like, look at Robbie Lawler, the rejuvenance that he had in the UFC, and look at Rory McDonald.
Yeah,
that's probably a modern example.
Yeah,
he's not a trash
stars. Obviously, the big one is George St. Pierre, who, again, not an amazing personality. Sure, he had things going for him. He had pretty much the whole of Canada behind him, or at least the whole of Canadian MMA watchers behind him. He was a good looking guy and all that kind of stuff, but he's not like a crazy character. He's not like a Conor McGregor type character, so you can certainly build it on other stuff as well.
But that's what I mean. I just think more fighters need to be more, I don't know, just themselves, basically. Yeah. Josh, Ben Askren, it's never going to happen. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. Another Joe Rogan guest recently this week. I just don't think it. If somebody said, I can't remember who said it because the comments are going up, Darren Till. you know, Darren's been on the show. Many times Darren been on with us, 2-3 times now in the studio.
Twice, I think.
Big fans of Darren Till. Again, rumours. John Kavanagh put up a tweet, or was it an Instagram? Can't remember.
Yeah, it was a tweet. It was a reply to a tweet, I think.
Okay, so he basically said that Airside is signed for Gunny against Darren Till in London. So it looked like that was going to happen, like the fact that John Kavanagh was tweeting that. Yeah. But Darren Till, I believe Rob has come out and said no, he wants Wonderboy. He was offered Wonderboy for possibly April, I think, was it?
Yeah. Before we move on to that, because we can move on to a few things, there's actually a good bit of news out. I just want to go back to the Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic thing for a little minute, because we actually didn't talk about the fight itself and how competitive it will be. Just in your initial reactions, I don't know if you've seen the lines. I think early betting lines come out. How would you have it? How would you have it set? Who's the favourite, and how wide of a favourite are they?
Oh, so I don't know this.
Okay, that's good now. And in the comments, if you've seen the odds, don't reply, don't ruin it, but have a guess.
It's the fact that you're asking me this is making me think that it's a little out of the park. Like there's a little left field here. I think you got to make Stipe the favourite.
Okay.
Just the fact that DC has fought as heavy. He's 13-0. He hasn't fought there in a while. Stipe has been absolutely. He's like Jon Snow. Jon Snow didn't kill any dragons. Sorry, spoiler alert. But he's the absolute dragon slayer at the moment. He's killing these monsters that's getting in his way. Like. Everybody, including myself, thought like Francis Ngannou was just going to absolutely murk him. But yeah, I gotta say, I think Stipe. Josh could have just spoiled it though, saying -180 for DC. Is DC the favourite?
No, Stipe is -180, and DC is +150. So essentially, that works out at about 64% chance or 65% chance for Miocic and a 40% chance for Cormier. I think that makes sense in a way. I think he should be the underdog. I think DC should be the underdog, but I don't think he should be a huge, enormous underdog. I think he's, as they'd say in betting, a live dog. Like you can't forget what he did at heavyweight. Now, how has his body changed since he's moved down to light heavyweight? How will he look at heavyweight against these bigger guys? Now, Stipe, it's not like he's going against a Francis Ngannou type who was just enormous. It's going to be a big size discrepancy, but I don't think it's going to be absolutely insanely big. It's going to be big. But yeah, I think them odds are pretty much. You
think Stipe is going to be much bigger than Cormier?
I think it's going to be bigger. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. No, I think Daniel.
At least with, like, obviously, if you look at Daniel Cormier, he's wide, he's built. He's stocky, but he's short, and he was always, a small heavyweight. He was never a big heavyweight. And I know Stipe isn't a huge heavyweight either, but I think in terms of, without checking it, in terms of reach and stuff like that, yeah, I'd say Stipe would definitely be the bigger man, stature-wise.
But I think again, it's an intriguing fight. Like I think as well, Stipe, he's great takedown defense as well, and as he showed, his foot movement is fantastic. But DC shows a chin. Miocic shows a chin. I actually think it's a really exciting fight. It's styles make fights, as that old expression goes. His wrestling is absolutely phenomenal. DC, nobody can deny that. Like it's.
Yeah, just looking at the comments here, it looks like a lot of people are giving DC quite a good shot. It looks like Josh actually, I guess that wasn't his giving away. He was guessing DC.
Yeah, it was an opinion, yeah.
And a few people saying that DC's wrestling will give Miocic some trouble. Maybe, like, Miocic is a good wrestler, but we haven't really seen him challenged in wrestling, as far as I can remember, very recently at least. He's a good offensive wrestler, but it'd be very, very interesting to see if DC got a hold of him, what happened. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think I honestly think it's a great fight. It's a great matchup, like it is, and like I'm delighted it's made, because like when I first heard, I was like, it's never gonna happen. But then as soon as I heard Dana sort of say it in the post, I was like, possibility is happening.
Yeah, and it's going down.
Couple of people asking here, Usman and Covington, what do we think of that?
That's an interesting one. I think not. I think Usman's last performance was very, very good. Very, I suppose you could use the word like workmanlike. He did what he needed to do against a dangerous puncher, but I don't think he made any fans with the performance. But I don't think that really takes away, or it takes away my enthusiasm, I suppose, of what I think he can be. But it's an interesting one. Coby Covington, again, similar type fighter in a way. Look for the takedown, tries to grind it out, but sometimes likes to strike as well. Similar to Usman, so it could be a decent fight. I'd go with Usman for athleticism, probably. Just have slightly more better athleticism. But I think it's a very, very close fight. I'd like to see odds on that one.
Somebody said it up the comments as well, but yeah, I don't know. The fight doesn't get me excited.
Was it his last performance? Usman's last performance?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of that, and like I'm gonna say it. This won me favoritism on our last stream, Rob. Coby Covington is just a cunt. You know what I mean? He's a fucking dickhead. I still haven't seen Star Wars, but I think that fucker ruined it on me. You know that way?
Yeah.
But like, forget that. Like, he's just a cunt. I like
building relationships and all that.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like, and he's what I was talking about earlier about saying some people are just good trash talkers. He's what I mean that he's my example of he's not. Do you know what I mean? He's not a good trash talker. He's just saying shit just to get that.
He's a provocateur.
Yeah, he is. But he's even like, he doesn't have comedy timing or anything.
No,
do you know what I mean?
He's not very good at it. It's like someone told him you need to be outspoken. So he went out and just started saying as much outrageous stuff as he could to get reaction. Yeah. And to be fair to him, he is getting a reaction, but maybe it's not the best reaction, because take it from an example here, and I know we always bring him up when we're talking about trash talk or we're talking about guys who can talk, but Conor McGregor, you know, everyone has to bring him up there. But if you look at him and you look the way he talks and the way he presents himself, even though he's so cocky and he's so outspoken and he's so everything, when he loses, it doesn't just all collapse in on him. You know, he lost a few fights already. He lost to Nate Diaz, and if anything, he's probably a bigger star after that one. But with Coby Covington, I don't know. I think if he loses, I think all that shit talk is just going to come back on him, and it's going to be a bad look. Comment
to the section so far. Coby Covington is just a shit Josh Koscheck. Hopefully without the eye pokes. I don't know. I don't know. Cause like Covington's like, there's no doubt about he's good. Coby Covington, he has skills. He's got skills.
No, he has. His win over Daniel Cormier was legit. Daniel Cormier.
Yes, exactly. He's a good fighter. He mightn't be the most exciting fighter in the world, and he just needs someone to take Twitter off him.
He's almost here to see that last comment by Homegrown Hodges. Colby is the kind of guy to get hit in the face with a boomerang and call the cops. Like, he's legitimately that guy. He done that.
Yeah. Who gets hit in the face with a boomerang?
Yeah. Don't put yourself in that position. First thing.
Yeah, and as well, like poor Verdum crushed the dreams of Australians because the boomerang didn't come back. So
very good.
There you go. Dad joke, yeah. But yeah, Coby Covington, I don't know, he's just a prick.
Stipe will destroy DC apparently. Emerald Oil TV potentially, and you know, I think we've been wrong with Stipe before. We done a preview show for the last event and we all picked Ngannou, and I think a lot of people were picking Ngannou just based on what he can do in the first round, and we found out that Stipe Miocic just is that good. That's not going to work against him. But now it'll be interesting to see what DC can do in the wrestling situation. He's not going to get tired. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I would definitely pick Stipe Miocic. If I have to pick right now, yeah, Stipe Miocic 100%.
Emerald Oil TV, by the way, just I know you have to type, so I do apologise, and it's late, and if your name is Emerald Oil TV, you're clearly in the beautiful island that is Ireland. But Why do you think he's going to destroy him? Let us know that. So type that up, and we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in 5 minutes. Pesnat, M8 jumping on us here, Rob. Tony or Khabib?
Oh, you know, I've been on the Khabib bandwagon of sorts for a long time, and he's the guy that I've been saying he's going to beat every lightweight out there, including McGregor. Lately, I've been really liking the way Tony Ferguson has been approaching it. I've been really liking what he's been saying, but I still got to go with Khabib. I got to go with him. I just think his grappling's too good. I think Tony Ferguson is probably the worst matchup for Khabib in certain ways, because when it does go to the ground, Tony Ferguson can do a lot from his back. He's not really content anymore. He used to be content just to stay on his back and look for submissions. Now he'll try sweep and stand up. So it'll be interesting to see that kind of stuff. But I don't know, just something about Khabib is grappling is just completely next level when he's on top. It's insane.
I think Homegrown Hodges is a good point about don't sleep on Tony. I don't think anyone's going to sleep on a guy who's on the march like Tony Ferguson. But like, if you look, there's something about what Khabib done to Edson Barboza. Like, Edson Barboza is an elite striker, and he couldn't get shots off. Yes, he threw a few kicks up and stuff, but at one stage it just looked like Khabib was literally running at him to close the distance, and he puts that pressure where he puts somebody on the back foot. I certainly won't sleep on Ferguson though. Ferguson can throw. Like, I honestly think Ferguson doesn't know what he's going to do next. You only have to look at his deadlift video, and like, the man is just not in control of anything he does, but yet at the same time perfectly in control of everything he does, if that makes any sense. I think it's a really close fight, but I put up on Twitter at NOK1980 but I put up on Twitter, I think straight after the fight, that Khabib is the best lightweight in the planet. I've never seen anyone dominate fights the way he does. I just go and check out, have you seen the video of Khabib wrestling with DC and Luke Rockhold?
I've seen it, yeah. So
check that. If you haven't seen that, check that out, and you'll see why nobody can compete with Khabib when he gets them in them positions. But like, I think Tony Ferguson, like as you were saying, Rob, is the shit he does on the ground, like his ground game is phenomenal, that he could catch Khabib. I don't know. I just think if this was a game of chess, Khabib is just the master chess player. And it's like the usual thing we say, you never see a way of beating someone until they get beaten. So maybe Tony Ferguson has the master key to unlock the blueprint of how to beat Khabib. As said there, he's prepared for him 3 or 4 times, but he's never fought him in them 3 or 4. He's never fought him, so it's very different sparring with people who are trying to replicate what Khabib does, but trying to get somebody that can actually do what Khabib does at the level and the pace, and just his violence when he does it. Like, it's just, I don't think, to answer that quickly, I don't think anybody's overhyping Khabib. I think the hype behind Khabib is legit.
I think he's proved it a little bit too much at this point. I think against high level opposition, against different styles of fighters, like some of the guys he's beat. Now, he did have trouble, and I thought Tony Ferguson made a good point. He did have trouble with Gleason Tebow a couple of years ago, well, a good few years ago now, taking him down. But in the UFC and outside the UFC, and again, you can dispute what merits his record has outside the UFC. There's certainly a lot of fights there that maybe were tomato cans, as they say, but that last one, Edson Barboza, was incredible. The Michael Johnson one was incredible. So yeah, I don't think anyone's overhyping him, but you never know. Tony Ferguson could show us something that we haven't seen from Khabib. Maybe he can stuff takedowns. Maybe he can make Khabib strike in the 4th round. Who knows? The I Choose Me has just said conspiracy theories over Stipe. I hate to be conspiracy theorist, but do you think Dana wanted the DC Stipe fight because, one, Stipe has not had a great relationship with the UFC, example, Overeem getting overpaid, and 2, was Dana not putting the belt around Stipe's waist?
my thing on that is Overeem was paid more than Stipe because Overeem was coming into the UFC as a superstar. Like Alistair Overeem was considered by many the best heavyweight, certainly outside of the UFC. He was a K1 Grand Prix champion. He was Strikeforce champion. He was, you know what I mean? He was the top boy. Like he'd beaten Verdum, he'd beaten, you know what I mean? He was, Alistair Overeem was coming into the UFC. He debuted, I'm right in saying he debuted and beat Brock, wasn't it? That was his debut, wasn't it?
Yes.
Beat Brock.
I believe so, yeah.
So Alistair in a way had sort of earned that. Corned, if sounds terrible, but he'd earned that paycheck. Well, Stipe, like you gotta remember, like Stipe is I wouldn't say a resurgence, but Stipe had a few knocks before he got to where he's got to, you know. And when you're within the same company and you're signing contract after contract, like anybody in their normal job, like if you were to do your normal job, whatever your normal job is, and you work for the same company and you're working for that same company 4 years and you just get your like yearly salary increase or whatever, it's, yes, you tip along, but if you go and you interview at some other job, another company, they might throw money at you because they're like, holy shit, this guy is actually really good. Yeah. So sometimes I buy, you know, like shop around and you get better pay. So I think, you know, Alistair was definitely deserving of big bucks. That I'm sure his fee has gone down considerably with the feats of recent. But yeah. What do you think of that, Rob? Conspiracy theory. And the whole Dana thing, in fairness, you can't blame Stipe. They fucking just blew smoke up in the guy who's asked the whole fucking thing. Like Stipe Miocic was going to create history, and you barely heard that. Yeah. So
before I answer that, I'm going to do a cheap plug because it helps us out. If you're watching this and you're asking questions, share this on like Facebook or Reddit or Twitter or wherever you use social media, and tell them to ask us some questions because we're going to go for a little bit more. On the conspiracy theory, I don't know. I'd be more inclined to say that Dana White and the UFC matchmakers just want to make a lot more money, and they think that this fight will make a lot more money than say it's a conspiracy theory. But they definitely haven't had the best relationship. And even Stipe at that press conference, when he was asked why he had his coach put the belt around him instead of Dana, he said, because my coach respects me or something like that, which is a clear jab at him. So you never know. It's one of those. But we might get Eddie Bravo on the show to talk some conspiracies someday, some tinfoil hat stuff.
Flat earth. Homegrown Hodges here just talking about Whittaker. That's fucking crazy shit, man. It's a staph infection.
Oh. It's a nightmare. Yeah, we spoke about this on the show a little bit this week's show. When you're finished with this one, you can go back and watch it. It's horrible for Robert Whittaker. He seemed to catch a bit of a break. You know, he was he had a great run in the division, and then he thought he might be getting the GSP fight. That fell through, but then they had him lined up to fight in his home country to defend his legitimate title, the undisputed title. And now he gets horrible staph infection, which is not just, you know, threatening to his career. Apparently it's life-threatening, according to what was reported. So, man, that's insane. I hope Robert Whittaker gets back, because he is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC right now. Really, really exciting. And to be honest, like we spoke about TUF earlier on, and I don't watch TUF. That's actually one of the seasons I did watch, and he always impressed me. I thought he was an excellent fighter on the show, but the improvements that he's made since the show and going up in the division is just incredible.
Robert Whittaker is somebody who I've always underestimated, and I've said that a few times, haven't I? That I've always sort of incorrectly thought, Robert would get beaten here. I was always, but like to the rise he's had and to where he's at, and the fighters he's beaten most recently is incredible. And like, I don't believe in God, so I'm not going to say all my prayers are with you. You know, just get better with medicine from scientists and doctors, and hopefully that works. But it's just horrible. You know, staph infection. Jesus Christ, it just goes to show, like, you don't treat staph, man, how fucking lethal it is. You know. Yeah. A couple of other things just want to talk about in and around. A couple of the guys here on this, obviously Irish with the names, is Richie Smullen, fighting out of SBG Ireland. Is going to be in this undefeated TUF season. Richie has a record of 3 wins, no defeats, obviously undefeated, and 1 draw. His most recent fight was against Rhys McKee here in Dublin Street Arena for Bama, and that was the fight that was scored a draw. So it's great to see Richie Smullen in the TUF house. How do you rate his chances? Like, for anyone who doesn't know, Richie is absolute leg locks. He's the Irish John Danaher, basically.
Some praise there.
Yeah, he's the leg lock. Like, I remember, I think it was Richie's debut on Bama, and we were upstairs doing media backstage, and there was no screen on. There was no screen backstage, so we were running down trying to find out who was winning the fights, or trying to go down and watch the fights. Very hard, people, to interview a fighter when you haven't seen this fight.
So good fight, yeah.
Tell us in detail about it. But I remember running down the stairwell to go down and watch the fight, and I ran into Paddy the Hooligan Hoolan, and I said, how did Richie get on? He went, oh yeah, the fight's over. I says, how did he get on? He said, he won. I said, how did he win? I went, by knockout. I was like, did he? He went, fucking heel hook, you tick. And we rocked off. But that basically sums up Richie's. Well, it doesn't sum up, because ironically, in a fight with Rhys McKee, Richie's striking looked fantastic, and you'd nearly argue that Rhys had the advantage on the mat when it got to the mat. Yeah. So it's great though to see again another young Irish, because like the talent in Ireland is quite. If you're not from Ireland, you're going to just say we're being biased here, but there is great talent both in Ireland and the UK. I'll throw that in so we don't sound biased. But there's great talent tapped here in the UK. Speaking about that talent, Emerald TV, do we think Darren Till is overhyped?
Me? No, I don't think so. I think Darren Till, he's certainly hyped. Especially after his last performance, he's certainly hyped. We'll find out if he's overhyped in his next one. Maybe it's going to be Gunnar Nelson, maybe be somebody else. But I personally think what we've seen so far, I don't think he's overhyped, especially as a product, if you want to call him that. So, like, not just is he a great fighter, but he knows how to promote himself. He's a promoter's dream in certain ways. So I think in terms of that, he's the full shilling. I like Till. But the arguments that come up is his only finish was over Cowboy. Do you hear that sentence though? His only finish was over Cowboy Cerrone. But then you'd have other arguments saying this is Cowboy Cerrone, who's fighting at a weight class he probably shouldn't be fighting at. He's certainly done well at that weight class. But maybe
could argue that Darren Till shouldn't be fighting at 170.
You probably could argue that too as well.
I definitely think Darren Till is a star on the rise. I certainly don't think he's the finished product.
No.
But he is an absolute animal. He has serious skills. Like, his Muay Thai is phenomenal. Living in Brazil for so long, I'm really actually interested in seeing what he's like off his back. I'm sure he has a good ground game. But yeah, I'm excited with Darren Till. He's exciting. He's, again, seems to be the theme of this chat. But Darren Till does talk really good trash, and he means it. Like, we interviewed Darren before he fought Cowboy Cerrone, and he basically told us, I'm going to finish him, lads. And I believed. And when you're talking to people and you just sort of like, yes, they're telling you, yeah, I'm going to beat him, and you're like, all right, yeah, fair enough. You're hyping yourself up, your self-belief, all that. But when Darren Till broke down and spoke to us about how he was going to beat Donald Cowboy Cerrone, I was like, yeah, he's going to finish Donald Cowboy Cerrone. But like, I just Till is. We have to see more of him. It's the only thing I suppose you can say. Like, he wants the talk of Gunny we were talking about a little earlier. He wants Wonderboy. If Darren Till was to beat Wonderboy, well, that's
Well, there's certainly I would say questions over Darren Till, but that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for him either. There should be some interest going into his fights, but you can go back to the Dalby fight where in the third round he got tired and he was dominated in a 10-8 round. You can go back to that. So there's certainly questions there, but I think he's an excellent contender already in the division, and I'd love to see the Gunnar Nelson fight. I think that's a great fight. Again, will they make it because Gunnar's coming off a loss technically, and I know there's some controversy around that loss. I don't know. I think the Wonderboy fight makes a little bit more sense in certain ways. Although, you know, if you're a Wonderboy fan, maybe you think Darren Till doesn't really deserve it yet because Wonderboy just fought for a title quite recently. But either of those fights as fights are brilliant. If they make the Gunner fight, I'm going to put you on the spot. What you think and how you feeling?
Fuck you, Rob. You see, right, Gunny's from Iceland, so he's not Irish, so the patriotic. No, it starts in defeat. The fight starts in defeat. I'd be in favour of Till on the feet. I just think he has this destruction. Gunny has this the karate style point scoring fighting that, like, I honestly think if Gunny was to get Darren Till to the mat, and if that was happening, you'd obviously favour goes with Gunnar and Nelson. But if you were to give me money now and say, look, you can have the winnings if you place a bet, I'd back Darren Till. Homegrown Hodges, we don't stream all that much. We're trying to make this a weekly thing, but we have a show. We record on a Monday, and our show releases every Tuesday. So a show is available. If you just type in, obviously, Fight Talk in YouTube here, or on iTunes or Android.
Subscribe to the channel there below. You just said it's easier now.
Yeah, subscribe. Well done, Rob. You're pro.
Yeah, the show is a recorded thing, so we have guests and we look at cards and stuff. But we're hoping to do some kind of live stream.
Watch. We have a great interview with Bruce Buffer. Yeah, and like, only like 299 people have watched it, and we're like, why are people not watching? This is Bruce Buffer. The man is a legend. Yeah. He was reminiscing about his 20 years in the UFC, and it was incredible. Yeah. But yeah, so Darren Till, we were saying Darren Till, Gunny, if he fights Wonderboy, that's absolutely huge. But I think there's a lot on offer for Darren Till. That's the great thing. You always know when a fighter isn't just hype when other fighters are talking about him. When the actual fighters in his division are speaking about him, that's a big sign that this guy's legit. Yeah. And I like Mike Perry. What a fun fight that would be too.
Yeah, it would be very, very fun. Somebody, who was that there in the chat? Went off it.
You think? Josh Minto. Sorry, Josh Minto thinks Gunny will be
Font.
Oh, we need Brendan Dorman here. Brendan Dorman. Rob Font is Brendan Dorman's man.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Rob Font. His last performance was excellent. I picked him to be Thomas Almeida, but Rob Font's boxing is excellent. Very, very exciting fighter. Had a couple of ups and downs, but again, he's pretty much fought some of the better guys. He's fought John Lineker, and he actually done quite well against John Lineker, who's just a nightmare, especially if you're a striker. John Lineker is an absolute nightmare to fight, and he done quite well, I thought, against him, and he probably could have done a little bit better if he fought him a little bit more recently. The Pedro Munoz fight got caught, but the last one, Thomas Almeida, I've reiterated this a few times. I hope Thomas Almeida isn't the next Eric Silva, and he just fades into obscurity and keeps getting knocked out because he's an exciting fighter. But Rob Font really put it on him in that last one.
I had one point to make on Darren Till. Someone said Darren Till stands with his head high. I can't remember who that was. Oh, what can I say? It's gone. I think that's Till is for real, but keeps his chin high. Homegrown, you said it. I think that's the Muay Thai. A lot of Muay Thai fighters stand up tall. Plus, Darren Till's a big man. They call it the big man's illness, is standing tall, especially when you're backing up. But completely works for him. Rob Madigan, the board is not flying on one wing. But thanks for stopping by. We're well balanced at this stage of the evening, Robert. Right, Rob, we have a couple other things we want to touch on and speak about. Let's have a look. So Nate Diaz, the champion of absolutely nothing, has said that he's coming back, and Eddie Alvarez called him out on it because apparently he's only coming back for one man.
Who's that one man, would you say?
He has a gorilla on his chest.
Is that Conor McGregor?
It could be that dude, yeah.
It could be. Yeah, I kind of hope they don't make that fight. Again, you know, it's a fight that I think should be made down the line, but not right now. So is it
lining up though?
Possibly, it is. It kind of is lining up, isn't it?
With Khabib and Ferguson fighting.
Yeah, like does
Conor's back in the gym representing Black Eyes on Instagram.
Yeah. No, like I
It's a number one bullshit.
They also have a built-in excuse of sorts if they do make the fight and not strip Conor, because they could say, oh look, we've already made the fight between Khabib and Tony, we can't take that away from each other, so Conor's going to fight Nate and then the winner will fight, the winner. So yeah, but
what's funny about Josh just said here when they strip him is Conor versus Nate 3. I agree with that. But what's really funny about it is, in a terribly funny way, is that if Conor was to fight the winner of Khabib, Tony, and beats them, he still hasn't defended the belt.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
We all know Carl Jordan wouldn't be a fan of that.
No, he wouldn't. But in all seriousness, I think if Nate Diaz comes back, that'd be great. I'd love it. If he comes back for the right fight, I don't want to see him fight Tyron Woodley for the title. I don't want to see them do the Conor McGregor fight. Really,
who did you fight?
Eddie
I think
Alvarez.
I think Kevin Lee would be a fun fight.
It would. There's plenty of fun fights. You can put Nate Diaz in there with anybody, but to be fair to Nate Diaz, if you're in his camp or you're him, you shouldn't just come back and fight anybody, especially if you're not getting paid as much as you should be getting paid, because the UFC are lacking stars. We spoke about this at the start of the stream. They're lacking stars, so Nate Diaz is certainly a star, and he's one of the bigger stars in the UFC.
Is he only a star because he's fought Conor McGregor?
I think he was a bit of a star before that, but I do think that really pushed him over the edge. Like, the Diaz brothers have always had a huge following. Maybe they didn't really they didn't pull pay-per-view numbers, but I think after the whole Nate Diaz thing, they will. I think he's a huge star now, or at least relatively huge star, because there's not that many in the UFC.
Fight news as well. I think we talked about it on the show recently. I'm only thinking of it because I'm thinking weight class and think Gaethje Poirier. How do we feel about that?
Violence, crazy.
I think like Dustin Poirier is like the perfect, like, if you look at how Justin Gaethje fights, he breaks fighters down, he breaks their spirit and he breaks their soul. And like, we've seen that happen to Dustin Poirier, and a lot of Dustin Poirier's defeats are from that. He gets caught and he breaks. So like, I think it's a bad matchup for Dustin Poirier, but Poirier has looked fantastic at that weight class.
Yeah, he's looked great. Potentially haven't really thought it through in my head that much, because I saw it and I was just like, eyes wide and thinking of what the fight would look like. I didn't really think of it in a who would win type of way. But yeah, good point. Poirier is the type of guy who sometimes he gets into that firefight and he comes off on the short end. But you look at the Eddie Alvarez fight where it was more back and forth, and it was a bit controversial the way it ended. So who knows? But that again, a great fight.
Dustin Poirier, one of two people who blocks me on Twitter.
Why did he block you?
I don't know. Because Rob Madigan just said it, P-head. I think I actually put up a quote of Conor McGregor.
Wow.
Like, it was an actual quote, and Dustin Poirier blocked me.
I don't blame him though. I have it blocked ages. Just didn't tell you.
He doesn't block obviously Fight Talk, so we're all right. Gaethje is coming back too soon, in my opinion.
When is
that's
it
interesting.
Actually? When is it booked for?
I'm not too sure. You'd have to ask the Google machine. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Google it, or somebody can tell me in the chat. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, now in fairness, I would also say, like, if you slam the door too fast, the wind would rock Dustin Poirier. So the gust of the door slamming would rock Dustin Poirier. So I don't know. He is a bit chinny.
I wonder why he blocked you on Twitter.
Well, I didn't say that on Twitter. Unless, of course, Dustin Poirier is probably an avid listener of obviously Fight Talk.
Wow, just another thing we can talk about, and it's just craziness. I forgot about this one. You might have it wrote down, I'm not sure. But when the Dustin Poirier versus Gaethje fight was announced, which goes down at UFC Glendale on April 14th, yeah, that does seem a little bit soon.
Yeah.
Possibly. I think it does.
March, April. No, it's 3 months away.
I still think it feels a little bit soon for what Justin Gaethje went through. I don't know, let me think about it more. But when that was announced, also announced Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown on the same card. Holy moly.
I'll do my Brendan Dorman impression. Look. you don't have to ask me. Well, maybe these people don't know. Maybe the listeners here or people watching don't know. Carlos Condit is my favourite fighter who's ever stepped into the UFC octagon. So,
but
I love him.
they'll need to have plenty of people to scrub the canvas during that event.
They'll need Swayze. They'll need Stitch doesn't work there anymore.
No, he was never my friend.
I don't know any other cup people apart from Swayze. He was the fat doctor that Josh Koscheck used to give out. Yeah, there will be blood. There will be blood. Be a good fight.
There will be. What else?
All right, you've gone blank, so you're saying no. What else did you
so I was looking at the chat. A quick one there. Who's the pick? Dillashaw or Johnson? Ooh. Flyweight, I'm going to say Demetrius Johnson wins.
I'm just sorry, it's just there's a lag on the stream. I'm looking at myself doing me Brendan Dorman. It's hilarious. DJ wins.
DJ wins.
Yeah, he just has too many ways of winning fights. DJ, Rob, if you don't listen to the show, you should, because it's really fun and it's really good and we're great. But apart from that,
how modest.
Rob always talks about great. I'm praising you here, you see. Rob always talks about how DJ got transitions from striking into grappling, and he does it with such fluidness. Fluidness, is that a word? He does it like it's fluidity, flowy, as Arthur would say. You don't notice him. You don't know, like he transitions beautifully from striking,
as they say.
Yes, he's absolutely fantastic. And like I think TJ will be hard to catch, but I just think DJ will catch him and get him down, beat him up, and win the fight.
Paul Mason, big fans of the show, lads. Our big fans, lads. Listen to the show all the time. Keep it up. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that.
Paul, man, and fair play to you. Name like Paul Mason, gotta be an Irishman, and you're up at this hour. Fair play to you. Obviously your missus kicked you out of bed as well, just like me and Rob here. Should Joe Duffy retire? I think his radio show is doing great.
Very good. Very good.
Terrible gag. Sorry, Emerald Oil, that was terrible.
Joe Duffy retire?
Should Joe Duffy retire? No, I don't think so.
Like, just I'm just coming from a perspective of, was something said? Did Joe Duffy mention retirement, or is this just because he had a loss in his last fight? Interesting. I don't think so, unless there's something wrong, unless he's injured or has some kind of medical issue, then maybe. But yeah, Joe Duffy, I think he still has a ways to go. Maybe he won't make it to the heights that we thought he could have made it to in the UFC, but I still think he's a great fighter for the lightweight division. I think he's still going to do pretty well in the lightweight division.
Paul Mason's from Tyrone, the old enemy against Dublin. Remember they stormed Hill 16, and that blonde fella, what was his name, kept kicking points over the bar.
Yeah. I forget his name.
I'm not a big GAA fan, Paul. Forgive me for that, but I just remember Tyrone beat Dublin a few times. But Conda come up for the cash after his failed coffee shop venture. Look, I honestly think if I was an MMA coach and I wanted to show somebody how to fight striking in a mixed martial arts competition, I'd sit them down and show them Carlos Condit. He's an elite striker, and it's really weird. Like, I remember, I do it the odd time. Like, my old, you wouldn't think about looking at me now, but I used to train the MMA. Never fought, but trained.
But did you train the UFC? That's the big question.
I trained the UFC on a Tuesday.
Okay.
yeah, and then the rest was the MMA.
Yeah.
See the way I'm saying the MMA? It's brilliant. But my old coach, Stefan Moriarty, out of Legends in Bray, was a huge Carlos Condit fan as well. And me and him were just like, ooh. And like, Steph is like fucking 1,615 two times black belt in like Taekwondo. So like, Steph is a decorated striker. And just watching Carlos Condit fights with him, you really stood out just how amazing he was. But like, Carlos Condit is an elite striker. Yes, he's in the... what's the polite way of saying it? He's coming to the end of his career in a polite way. But Matt Brown is also coming to the end of his career as well. So, you know, it's a good fight. I like that idea. I've spoken about it forever, Rob. Put the old guys against the old guys. Stop feeding them to young lions.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I don't know about like a structured like legends division of sorts. I'm not sure about that, but I do think, you know, you have to, like, it's the way fighting generally works is that you have a matchmaker and you can match fights whatever way you want to match fights. So, you know, be sound, as they say, and match up guys who are, you know, relevant for each other. I suppose. I know the fight game's a bit of a harsh game, and sometimes you got to put that legend in there with that young guy just to get the young guy the rub. But yeah,
Paul Mason trains Bellator on a Wednesday. We can't, Paul. We got rid of the cage, so we can't climb over it. So we can't train Bellator.
Very good.
Hey, Emerald Oil. I say this because he should have. He'd never be top 5. He should never have gone to TriStar. That's interesting, like, because TriStar is like one of the most, like, you know, Faraz Sahabi is one of like the most decorated coaches and highly thought of coaches in the world. So that's an interesting point. I don't know where, if he wouldn't have gone to TriStar, where would you have sent him?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of them things where maybe he won't be top 5, but I don't think that's a reason why he should hang up the gloves necessarily. Like, if I was top 5 in the world at doing anything, I would take it.
Podcasting, Rob. You're top 5 in the world at podcasting.
No.
And look at your hair. It's let down today. His hair is normally on point.
Yeah, it's because you dragged me out. That sounds weird. You dragged me out of bed, but like I was in bed like when you told me you wanted to do this.
Interesting. Actually, someone just said Ariel Helwani. What did we think of Chael Sonnen pulling Ariel Helwani up?
I think it was more so Chael being Chael, but I also kind of agree with him in a way. Like, I do think sometimes that weird transition of, what was it like to say? Okay. Yeah, it's a bit weird. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that way with an interview personally when I'm interviewing. But Ariel Helwani is a wonderful interviewer. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird transition that he started doing. So I think it's more of Chael just being Chael. But yeah, I kind of get what he means.
Okay, moving on. Perfect gag. What did we think, actually, though? It's just Emerald always mentioning it. What did we think of Ariel Helwani pushing Dana White about the titles? Do you think he's like, because I know Fred on Twitter was saying, yeah, he's an instigator. Ariel's negative. He's negative media. He's always trying to just get the negative story. What do we think? I thought Ariel done well to go, no, hold on, can we get some make this clear for us, please? Like,
yeah, like that's his job. Like, at the end of the day, his job is to try get the answer for us, or the answer for the fan, or the answer for other journalists, you know. And Dana White was just point blank refusing to answer the question. So in that situation, he was just doing his job. He said, can we get a clarification of, is Conor stripped? Is he not stripped? So, you know, sometimes I understand why people jump on journalists for certain things. And I think maybe Ariel, in certain circumstances, he has been a bit guilty of poking the bear when maybe it's not really in anyone's interest to do it. In some situations, but I think for the most part, in 95 to 98% of the time, I think he does a great job, and I think he done a great job there because somebody had to do it. Somebody had to ask the question.
People listening in your comments, because all the comments disappear after a while. So if you're listening to this after we've recorded, should Conor be stripped of his belt? We can move on and talk about other things, but should Conor be stripped? So if you want to just comment, yes, he should be stripped, or no, he shouldn't be stripped. Francis Ngannou, Rob, the phenomenon that was at the weekend, has said he's gone back to France and he's taking some time.
Yeah, fair enough. You know, he's had a crazy run so far. He's only 4 years into his MMA career and he fought for a title. That's a crazy run, and he had a bad loss, and I think he was exposed in certain situations, especially on the floor, off his back. You see him when he was in side control. Stipe Miocic had no hip pressure. He wasn't blocking any hip. He wasn't blocking Francis Ngannou from doing nothing, and Francis didn't really know what he was doing off his back in that situation. So take some time off. I think he should just go and work on his ground game. Like, there was still holes in his striking. Stipe landed a lot of shots, but that can all be polished. But I think he needs to really go work on his ground game, and there has been rumours out there saying that he doesn't work on his ground game, which is insane for a guy who challenged for the heavyweight title. But I think it's a good idea. Take some time off and then come back. And we said it on the show. I don't think that's him done. I think he has plenty of improvements he can make. And I'm still excited about what he can do.
When you asked me a few weeks back now, probably 3 weeks ago or so, you said we done a thing where you went through the divisions. Will they still be champion, or will there be a new champion? And you asked about the heavyweight division. Will Stipe be the champion this time next year? And I said no. And he said, who will be? And I said Francis Ngannou. And you were like, oh. And I was like, I'm not saying he's going to beat him in a couple of weeks' time, though. I think Ngannou will go off. You see, the thing with Francis Ngannou is, it's like Gatton. Will I be dirty, or will I use a clean analogy? I'll use a clean analogy. I had a good dirty analogy, but I'll go with clean. If you're walking to work every day and you can go through the field, and when it rains the field gets muddy, so your uniform gets dirty, and when you go to work you get sent home, right? You're going to go the path, let's say the actual path, and not get dirty, right? But what's happening with Francis Ngannou is he has fallen in love. He's gone down the path so often that he only ever uses the path. He will never use the shortcut when it's... Now, the shortcut is the wrong way, because technically a knockout is a shortcut, but he's so used to knocking people out that he's never needed plan B. Yeah. In his whole mixed martial arts career, he's never ever needed plan B. So what was weird, what I thought about the weekend past, was that his plan A, he went all over the place. He was overreaching, he was wildly throwing. His plan A was completely different to how his plan A normally is. But my point is that he doesn't have a plan B. So for Francis Ngannou, he needs to go off. And Brendan Dorman actually made a great point. And I think, again, the weekend, our show gone just this week, if you go back and listen. Again, if you're only tuning in, you've only found us here tonight through this live stream, go back and listen to our shows. We have an analyst called Brendan Dorman on. Brendan, go check him out on YouTube. Brendan has some of the best breakdowns of fighters. And I mean like serious breakdowns, not just in there in his basement saying stupid things. Brendan Dorman is detailed in his breakdowns. And
also, just to point out, because something that you wouldn't have noticed if and it hasn't really been put out there, but he actually worked with Volkan Ozdemir in the camp just gone, and he speaks a little bit about that, and very, very interesting what he says about that, so I would check that out.
100%. But Brendan had said that, and somebody actually said it in our comments to last week's show as well, that if you look at MMA now, the Francis Ngannou fight and even the Volkan Ozdemir fight, it was almost like a throwback to like the 90s. It was a striker versus, like, I know, like DC, yes, was the grappler. Stipe Miocic grappled that fight and like beat him up because that's where it was easy to do it. So it was like a throwback. So Francis Ngannou has to go to a camp, to a team that will put him through that. Like, it's easy. Yeah. It's really easy for Francis Ngannou to go and knock people out and nothing to ever happen and everyone go, oh my God, Francis, you're the man. But he needs to be put in the tough positions. And what Brendan was saying on the show was that he needs to go to a camp that somebody will teach him. He'll have his striking coach, he'll have his grappling coach, he'll have his BJJ coach, he'll have his strength and conditioning coach. He needs that. He needs someone to monitor his career. And he just needs to fall out of love with his power. It's almost like DC's wrestling, for example. DC is so good at wrestling. He's so good that's in his back pocket all the time. If a fight's not going well, he can take somebody down. Francis Ngannou needs to develop his other weapons, his other skill sets, that if his striking isn't working, he can take him down. Like, can you imagine Francis Ngannou double legging you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he'd be... How do you stop that? How do you stop a man of that sheer size with any sort of technique? How do you stop that? So,
yeah, I thought that was a very good point by Brendan. He needs to specialise in certain areas, but he also needs to have a head coach that's orchestrating the training sessions in a certain way, like a Faraz Zahabi or like a Matt Hume in a Demetrius Johnson situation. Like, Matt Hume is, you're not going to call him the best striker in the world. He's an excellent grappler, but he's an MMA trainer, he's an MMA coach, and he looks after all the aspects and sorts out his camp correctly.
Paul Brendan, he's worked with a good few fighters, but he just studies unbelievably amount of footage and he breaks fighters down. He's a great Brendan has, we're actually going to talk about, I think, hopefully if Brendan's available this week on this week's show, we're going to talk about his background a little bit more. But he's the Rain Man of fighting. Like, when you get a shout out from Joe Rogan saying this guy is one of the best breakdowns on YouTube, like, that's credit to it. But Brendan Dorman, in a simple explanation, is Wednesday's definitely pork chop night. Wednesday is pork chop night. He's the Rain Man of fighting.
Very good.
Do you think Francis will fire his coach and his team like Joanna did when she joined ATT? I think Francis has got a great striking coach in Dewey Cooper. Dewey Cooper is a high level former kickboxing and MMA fighter as well. So I think he'll adjust his team if he's smart. And I don't doubt he is. I think he'll adjust his team. But yeah, interesting. Is it too late for Francis to get a good ground game?
For me, like, if I'm gonna say, I think he's not gonna be a excellent jiu-jitsu player at this point. I don't think.
Yes,
I would highly doubt that. But I don't think it's past the point where he can get really good at doing what he needs to do to get to the point where he needs to be, as in to have a good defensive guard, have a good stand-up, so a good way of getting up to the cage, maybe standing up with the use of the cage, stuff like that. You can certainly learn all that kind of stuff, and he already has a decent top game. Like, it's not like a really jiu-jitsu technical top game, but it's a really heavy strike heavy top game. So yeah, I don't think it's past it, but he's never going to be like a Damian Maia or anything like that.
Look how good he is at striking. 4 years. Look who he's beaten. Like, look. I know we MMA fans are an awful fickle bunch, and I include myself in that. Look what he done to Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem was probably one of the most decorated mixed martial arts strikers, certainly in the heavyweight division, like former K1 champion. And Francis Ngannou turned Alistair Overeem into a Pez machine. So if he can do that in that short space of time with striking, he will certainly be able to get some skill level on at ground. Certainly he'll have to do it, I suppose, in a way, not discrediting the skills that Chuck Liddell had, but he'll probably be able to do it to counteract takedowns. Yeah, stuff like that. One more thing I want to touch on, Rob, before we do close up, because we're nearly 2 hours here. How time flies. Paul Daly, Bellator. It looks like he was saying he's released Bellator, saying, no, you fucking aren't. But yeah, Paul Daly is looking to get out of Bellator. And I've seen a couple of tweets, and a certain Martin Ladovansky, who is the co-founder of KSW, or co-president,
co-founder and I think president, yeah.
And a cool motherfucker, by the way, as well. Is saying, yeah, we're interested. Offers will be on the table and stuff like that. But yeah, Paul Daly coming out of Bellator. Is it the wrong time in a way to be pushing, considering he is technically, he's not technically, he is coming off a loss, I'm right saying, isn't he? His last fight was against Rory McDonald, was it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I think Paul Daly, no matter how many losses he has, unless he goes on a terrible run, I think he's kind of going to be always that kind of guy that you can pick up and put in a main event or whatever, especially on a show like KSW. You know, he's a popular guy and very exciting, so that'd be an interesting signing. It's just a weird situation with Bellator saying he's not released, him saying he is released, or he is a free agent now, so that's a weird one. As far as I know though, Paul Daly wasn't exclusively signed to Bellator, or at least he could go and fight in different promotions if he wanted to, because I know he fought in Bama while he was still under contract with Bellator, and I know Bama and Bellator have that kind of good relationship as well, but yeah, I don't know, it's a weird one. It's we'll see what happens with it.
The whole Daily MVP thing never came to fruition. When we were up in Belfast covering Bama Bellator, I spoke with both Paul Daly and MVP, and they both looked like they absolutely wanted to. Yeah, you're dead right. Well done, real boy. Lorenz Larkin was Paul Daly's last fight, and he won. I was right. I was thinking that. But
oh yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, he beat Lorenz Larkin. Yeah.
That was a great fight too.
Yeah, great fight. I had a feeling. That's what I was thinking. No, it wasn't that long ago. But I was talking to the two of them separately, and the two of them are literally being separated from one another all night. They were on different sides of the arena and stuff like that, and then they were sitting across, and there was that fucking thing. But two of them wanted to absolutely kill one another. But at that time, so it's what? Well, Bellator Belfast was what? That was the night that Tim Barnett beat Rhys McKee. So how long ago was that? Was that a year ago?
Yeah, it must have been, yeah.
About a year ago. Yeah. And at the time, Paul Daly was saying, yeah, this pup isn't worth, fighting me. So it's, yeah, I think it's huge for UK MMA. Is it huge for world MMA? Do you know what I mean? Does it have the same pull?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Paul Daly is that kind of guy, but it'd be a great signing for KSW, because KSW seem to want to come back to Ireland and the UK. So if they put a show in the UK and they have Paul Daly versus one of their big Polish superstars, there's a big fight right there. So it makes sense for them, big time. Yeah, can't believe I forgot about that Lorenz Larkin fight. That was crazy.
Yeah, it's Justin Juggernaut has said Stipe. Excellent stuff. Yeah, we were talking about Stipe and DC a while ago, guys. So if you want to, I suppose, I think you can stroll back when we end.
Yeah.
Scroll back, give it a listen. Do you guys train in martial arts? If not, what would you specialise in? I trained as a hobby, Emerald Isle. I trained out in Legends MMA in Brace, which the head coach was Stefan Moriarty. I done a little bit of jiu-jitsu in East Coast Jiu-Jitsu, which was run by Jesus, Dara's surname has left me. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. Why am I thinking Dara Kennedy? It's not Dara Kennedy.
Yeah, I was going to say Dara Kennedy as well.
Yeah, Dara.
Dara. He was one of the most decorated black. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm embarrassed by that. Down East Coast in Monkstown. I trained there for a while, but I gave it up because I found out announcing fights on a microphone is a lot easier. So I'm the hardest working MC in Ireland. I cover the whole Emerald Isle, if you excuse the pun, Emerald Isle TV. But yeah, I'm an MC and fight commentator for a lot of shows, so that's what I do.
Yeah,
Rob, you do?
Yeah, I just trained jiu-jitsu in a lot of different places when I was a little bit younger, but I'm due to start back again soon, possibly in some place in Smithfield with a friend of mine, so only jiu-jitsu.
Are you gi or no gi, Rob?
No gi, and then the last place that I trained in was gi, and I found it incredibly difficult. So I want to start doing gi, because I think it's much more difficult to go from no gi to gi than it is to go gi no gi, because
sorry, what way do you think it's difficult? It's difficult to go from no gi to gi, or gi to no?
No gi to gi.
Yeah.
Because of all the
It's
grips.
weird. Yeah, well, I found that, like, because we used to do no-gi regularly, like, predominantly on a Saturday, I suppose. But I always found with gi, you'd be going for certain chokes, like baseball chokes and stuff, like baseball bat chokes and stuff like that, and you just couldn't. Fuck, where's Dara? That's gonna annoy me now. Dara's surname. Dara O'Connell. My God, what I got that. Dara O'Connell, one of his most decorated black belt in the country.
Yeah.
Name just left me. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, slip discs were my number one opponent that beat me every time. But yeah, look, if he's like what he's listening to, and I think he's that good interaction, guys. Appreciate all the comments, all the chats. Hit subscribe. Hit subscribe there on, obviously, Fight Talk, but as well check us out on Twitter. We're at @talk_fight, and that's where you'll find us, or on Facebook. You'll never guess, it's obviously Fight Talk. But yeah, go check us out. Quickly, last one, Emerald Oil says predictions: Rockhold Romero off the bat.
Rockhold.
Ooh, I did not forget Jesus. Not forget Jesus.
Okay.
Yo, Romero. Hey, Mike.
I'll probably change my mind by the time the fight comes along, but yeah, immediate
reaction. Michael Bisping, I come for you, Michael Bisping. This has been a impromptu live video on obviously Fight Talk.
I think this was fun. I think we can try get this once a week, maybe.
Yeah, see, also, if you have watched our previous live, my TV gave up. Look, my TV even went up. If you have watched our live stream before, you will have seen me with Manchester United and Everton on in the background. So I'm a big Manchester United fan, so don't unsubscribe if you don't like that news. But I'm a big Manchester United fan, and Rob wants to do this on a Wednesday, and I'm like, hold on, whoa. Champions League football is a Wednesday night, Rob. Let's not mess with
Possibly that. Wednesday, or maybe a different day.
Yeah, so we do want to do these more live streams, but like I said, go check out and subscribe down below. Just scroll down now, hit subscribe. But as well, check us out on Twitter @talk_fight, and
don't forget Noli. Big show coming up.
Noli. Who permitted you to call me Noli? When did this happen? When did this happen? It's fucking no.
100.
100 next week, yeah.
100 shows.
Episode 100, big show, yeah. We do have a couple of guests lined up, but yeah, a big thing for us. 100, yeah. But yeah, you're normally not sat in our sitting room and in my sitting room and Rob's kitchen. We're normally in a beautiful studio. We'll go check that out. This was just an impromptu. We just thought we'd come on and have a chat because DC and Stipe was confirmed tonight for TUF on July. TUF UFC 226 it goes down, so which is July 7th, but it's TUF season 262, I think. But it's the undefeated season. It's got Ireland's Richie Smullen, so anyone who is obviously of Irish here that's listening or still listening, because we're winding down, so fair play to you if you are. Yeah, it's an interesting season ahead, and I look forward. Hopefully Richie does really well. You think he would. Very, very good fighter, great amateur background, and
interesting to see who the other cast members are. So
yeah, do it again. Late night is good. Cheers, guys. Appreciate all the feedback there as well. Good comments. But yeah, late night. I'll see how the wife feels when I go into bed now. She goes, "You're fucking roaring down that microphone." On. She doesn't talk like that either. Yeah. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure coming on, interacting with you guys. Rob, you're gorgeous. No, thanks very much. Absolute pleasure. But yeah, check out the full show because I think you'll enjoy it. If you enjoy just me and Rob chatting, we've guests on a regular. We've had the likes of your Bruce Buffers, we've got Darren Tills, we had George Foreman on the show, for God's sake. That man makes grills. He makes grills.
Yeah. And the whole interview was just about his grills. No fighting talk.
Hello, Split Decision MMA podcast. That's one from Loaded Joe's. Yeah, fair play to you, lads. The Loaded Joe's podcast that shared everybody last night. Basically, we're sharing the wealth between us. But yeah, it's taken us ages to wrap this up and say goodnight. So, no, absolutely good night. Enjoy your weekend. A few fights on tomorrow night as well. We didn't really speak about them, which is weird.
Yeah, we were supposed to go into that at all, but we went rambling on other stuff.
Absolutely, but I'll go this way for you. I will literally go Souza, Bermudez, Gillespie, and Dober.
Oh, let me get the card up really quickly. Give your picks in the chat there really quickly before we leave. I'm gonna go Souza, Bermudez, Gillespie, Dober. I said the exact same ones, but I have to go with them.
There's just an echo on the stream here because Rob just repeated everything I just said.
Yeah.
But the fights are tomorrow. I don't know. People are moaning about the card, but as I always say, Rob, they mightn't be household names, but they're gonna bring it. But yeah, listen. Thanks a million for tuning in. This has been Noel O'Keefe and Robert Palin for obviously Fight Talk. It was late. It was great. You've been beautiful, and go check out the show. Hit your subscribes. We've plugged that enough. But we're gonna do more of these. It was great interacting with you. And MMA. We love you, man. Stay classy.